New York Comic-Con Metaverse, and welcome to the Valiant panel. My name is Tiffany from the YouTube channel Comic Pop, and I will be your moderator. We've got a terrific lineup today, so let's meet our panelists, starting with Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, co-writers of the upcoming book, The Harbinger. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's howdy. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Jeff Parker, writer of the upcoming NINJAK series. Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Dennis Hopeless, writer of the current X-O MANOWAR series.
Hello.
Hi. And of course, we are joined by two of Valiant's senior editors, Lisa Hawkins and Heather Antos. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
So thank you guys so much for being here today. I know we have a lot to cover, so I just want to kind of jump right into it. And what better place to start than with some recent news? Earlier this week, The Hollywood Reporter revealed a brand new Harbinger series. So my first questions are for Jackson and Colin. What can you guys tell us about who the focus is in The Harbinger and what excites you most about this project?
Sure. So The Harbinger is, we're putting a definite article behind it. So we might as well be talking about someone in particular, right? So really what we're doing here in The Harbinger is focusing everything down to Peter Stanchik. Peter has been at the center of this narrative alongside Toyo Harada for about as long as this narrative has existed, right? From the early Shooter Lapham books all the way through Josh Dysart's books and now to here. But he's always been a team leader of sorts. Not necessarily anybody who was very excited about running a team or knew much about running a team or did a very good job of running a team, but he sure did try. And we have now, I think, really seen an opportunity along, everyone at Valiant to take this character and build him out into himself. Let him have a space to grow. Let him have a space to reflect on the mistakes that he's made and who he wants to be moving forward. And so what we hope to do is take Peter Stanchik and kind of, I think, finally reveal what it is that makes him a hero and not just a troubled soul. He's been through drug addiction. He's been through abuse. He's run away from his destiny so far. He went to Jupiter. And we think now it's really time that he come back and embrace a little bit of what makes him a potential for positive change in the world and not just a troubled soul with too much power to go around.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we got full support on this. This is going to be a story that doesn't really sweep his past under the rug. It very much is going to be facing with who he has been and not running away from it. This is a story that we think is incredibly important because it's important to take responsibility for even the mistakes you've made, for the actions that you may not be fully proud of. But just because you have that kind of weight doesn't mean that you need to ignore it, right? You can't pretend that didn't happen. You have to embrace it and you have to move forward. And not only did we get the green light to tell that story, but then the story is getting to be just as awesome as it possibly can be.
That is honestly incredible sounding, and I can't wait for 2021 to get my hands on that. But along those lines, let's talk about the fact that you guys have collaborated many times before.
Yeah.
And a lot of your stories have many different tones. So what makes The Harbinger different from any of your other works?
What we've discovered on Harbinger is that it's actually a really lovely sync of all of our favorite tones. It's a way for us to write a book that is actively punk rock and anti-authoritarian and aggressively questions what it means to be a person of privilege, but also what it means to live in a society of other people who don't have that kind of privilege. We get to really, unpack a lot of that. But at the same time, it's a book that's very cerebral and very internal because we're going inside Peter's mind. We're not spending this time looking at Peter from the outside. We are very much looking at Peter from the inside in more ways than one. And that's really all that we can say without straight up spoiling the end of issue 1. But we're doing a big thing with Peter that is going to allow us to sort of unpack him in a way that I don't think any book has been able to before. So that's been the fun of it.
And I think the neat thing too of we really interrogate each other. That's really the key, is we can't really rest on any one perspective because it does need to be, we call it the hive mind. We need to be in concordance between our concepts, which really means that we get to tear something apart. And in this case, Peter is so complicated. It really takes two brains to be able to really unpack who he's supposed to be. So we really hope that the two of us are able to kind of create a very human look on this superhero.
But I think to the point of just looking back at if people are coming to our work from, say, Joyride, the other thing that they'll see here is we're building out a whole new supporting cast of characters that I think really feel like characters that come from our oeuvre. They are diverse, they are radical, they are weirdos, they are outsiders, and they are all going to be bringing their particular perspectives to Peter as well. So while the book is very focused on Peter, we're surrounding him with a new community that hopefully really stretches him in some different directions and makes him rethink the way that he's seen the world up until now. So I think you're going to see that common thread in our work of a kind of radicalism and a kind of interest in interrogating structural issues while we're really going in and interrogating the very personal issues of Peter.
That's great. That really is like amazing. I do want to mention that you brought up punk rock, so that kind of leads me into the next question of how did you like working with Robbie Rodriguez to develop the visual style of the Harbinger?
I mean, good luck finding someone who's going to bring more energy to any individual page or moment than Robbie. It's ridiculous. We owe Heather 100% for that. Heather Antos, you are the genius. Yep. One day it was just like, hey, Robbie's on this book now. And we started getting designs, and it was immediately everything that we had hoped it would be, and also completely different than what we were thinking. Like it brought, Robbie likes to use this metaphor of like being in a band, right? That once you're in this, you're in a band together, and you really have to think of it like a group effort. And we tend to agree with comics. We always look at our collaborators as like part of the storytelling process, which I think you have to in comics, but it means really getting in there with them. And the cool thing about Robbie is like, you can hand him a sentence and he'll give you back a page. Like he's just wonderfully expressive.
And he has this like, in this book in particular, he has this, we've been calling it like punk rock Akira, right? Yeah. It's like this totally awesome, like energetic storytelling. And then we're like, oh, but I wonder what Rico's going to bring to the table. They're longtime collaborators. And then we start getting the colors back on this stuff. And it's literally anything we could have dreamed of. It's unlike anything else that you're going to see on the shelves. And every time we see anything from this thing, especially with those dang colors, our brains just get a little bit more melted.
Colin really likes writing color challenges into scripts. This is just like a thing. Like, you see a lot of stuff that's like unified from us, but I'll tell you, like, that's a Colin thing. He loves being like, all right, so here's where we're only going to use this color, this particular thing. And this is the team to do that with, because Rico comes in and he's like, all right, so how do I express psionic energy with color, right? Rather than just being like, oh, let's put some lines around his head, or let's do the sort of spider sense thing, or any number of other things that have done with Peter's sting. We're really trying to update the visual language, and Robbie took to it like that.
That is honestly outstanding to hear, and like your excitement for this book and that collaboration is kind of infectious. Like seriously, I think it's a really great time to be a fan of Harbinger. Not only do you guys have an upcoming series, but there's also a film in development with Paramount. Like, what an amazing time to jump on board, learn more, and 2021 is going to be a great time for Harbinger.
It really is. We're really excited.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
So now let's turn our attention over to the more secretive part of Valiant, where espionage is king. So Jeff, what can we talk about with NINJAK? NINJAK's coming in 2021. Where is Colin King, aka NINJAK, at the start of your run, and where does he need to go?
Thanks, Jeff. We're picking up from the last series where he had broken off pretty well with MI6 after finding out about things they had been doing all his life. That he wouldn't. I'm going to make you go read it. I'm not going to Wikipedia it for you. We want you to buy those. And anyway, I thought it might be interesting to look at our story. Our overall arc is called Daylight, and we were Lisa and I went back and forth, and we're talking about what it might be if suddenly all the secrets were dragged out in the daylight, and that whole aspect of NINJAK was suddenly something he didn't have to work with. Like, he goes out and everybody, hey, it's Colin King, the NINJAK, and they can, suddenly he's not the living shadow anymore. And how does he roll with it? And that's kind of the fun of this, is it's like, he rolls with it. He actually has a partner that he works with named Mina this time. And he's got to figure out how to exist in a world where everyone's coming for him. He's a lot easier to find. It's his the difficulty level's just ratcheted way up.
I love that. I love that. Like just removing all of like his safety nets in a way, like being able to disappear into the shadows when needed. Which honestly, NINJAK, when you think about it, you're having this opportunity to write a title that kind of comes from two different worlds. We're talking about Eastern action with the ninja part, Western espionage with the MI6 spy elements. And even though you're pulling them away, what are some of the influences that might have guided you as you take on these two worlds?
Well, I mean, obviously there's always the Bond element. The MI6 is hard to avoid. But I'm trying to bring in something, especially because I'm working with Javier Pulido, who I'd worked with in the past, to kind of bring a very fun European vibe to it, sort of like Mario Bava movies like Danger Diabolique, and also fun stuff like the original Italian Job with Michael Caine. We're well aware that the real world is pretty harsh right now, and you probably don't need your face shoved further into heavy stuff. So while there's heavy consequences happening in the story, there's a panache and style going on throughout that kind of like, oh, that was a charming way to kill that person. That sort of thing. So we're trying to really get a snappy sort of feel, and Javier's work really lends itself to that. He's a very Alex Toth-like designer and breaks down pages in interesting ways. It all kind of really makes use of the comic book format more than anything else I've worked on in a while. Stuff happens that can only happen in a comic book.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's definitely a very specific way that writers have the opportunity to tell a story in this medium. I got to say, I love that you coined the phrase "a charming way to kill someone." That just seems decidedly British, and I think so on point for this. And I feel like it has to go somewhere on the book. But you also mentioned working with the artists. And how was your experience writing for artists helped you to tell this particular story?
It's when I started in comics, I was an artist, and I'm a better writer than I am artist. I'll easily admit that. But it really did help me understand like what they don't want, and also you got to crack the code on every artist. You can't just like here's the way I do it. You deal. I don't, and Javier's especially like that. In that I try really hard to give him what he needs and get out of his way. And that doesn't mean I just write a breakdown. Sometimes, Lisa can tell you I'm pretty descriptive in the whole thing, but I'm always stopping, say, by the way, you can throw all this out if you don't like it. And I'll work with whatever you come up with because you're brilliant and I'm not going to screw that up.
Javier brings such energy to the page. He mirrors Jeff's words perfectly. They really have a very old school Marvel method going on here. It is so Marvel method, and you can see it on the pages. It's just such a joint collaboration. I'm thrilled. It's a global what am I saying? Global. I can't even speak. They try to cross the world, adventures, and it's so mod and so 60s. It really feels, this NINJAK feels like if James Bond and Modesty Blaze had a love child, this would be our NINJAK.
Well, I wish I had said that. That was good.
It's brilliant. I'm absolutely just over the moon about it.
Well, I think I can safely say they're all really interested to see what new adventures await Colin King next year in NINJAK. Like, you guys sold me. I'm in. So I think from there, I think we're going to turn to what's coming out right now from Valiant. And I think, Dennis, you're up to talk about X-O MANOWAR. X-O is such an iconic and well-known part of the Valiant universe. So where did your approach to X-O come from?
Before we get started, I'd like to address that Jeff doesn't seem to appreciate the Mark Wahlberg Italian job, and
my wife was just off screen. It's like her favorite movie, and I was about to go over to her and be like, "They kind of badmouth the Italian." Yeah, I know. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of different stories told with EXO, and they're all really focusing on the interesting juxtaposition of an ancient Visigoth warrior and an impossibly powerful supersuit, and like how he navigates that and all of the amazing things he can do with that. We've seen him in, trapped inside an alien vessel, trying to escape the warlords and stopping an alien invasion and living on an alien planet. And we really wanted to bring all of that back to Earth and focus him more in our world and the anachronism of an ancient man living in the modern times and what he's trying to do with the suit here and now. At the same time, the most interesting thing about the character is that he has another person inside his head that is the suit. Like Shanhara is like another being that's there that sees the world from the exact opposite perspective of him. She has all of the breadth of human knowledge and alien knowledge that ever was, and she's trying to deal with, a man that likes to stab things with swords and punch them in the face. And having that relationship be a conversation was the thing that I was the most excited about. And then at that point, it became a challenge of how do we make a story that's set here with Eric trying to be a superhero, sort of in the traditional sense, as big and exciting and interesting as him, battling an alien armada or living on an alien world. And I think what we came to is setting it in an environment that is changing because of him and focusing on, he's really great at destroying things and he's really great at winning battles. He's not so great at navigating the social responsibility of the modern world and dealing with what, at the first issue, which has already come out, shows him stopping an alien vessel from crashing into the city and killing a bunch of people. But when he catches it and drops it in the middle of rush hour traffic, people hate him for it because now they're stuck there with the spaceship in the way. And that's the sort of thing he doesn't think about and doesn't care about, that he and Shanhara have to figure out how to navigate together. So it really brings the personality and humanity of this really interesting character to the forefront, while also changing and growing the world into a weird place that is reacting to him, which has been a lot of fun.
I really love those themes and tying it into some current world things that are happening. And that was such an amazing answer. And I hate to now almost ask this next question, but I'm going to go for it anyway and say, I understand that you're a bit of a Masters of the Universe fan, as at least you were as a kid. Did you bring any He-Man influences to your approach to Eric?
The simple fact is I bring He-Man into everything. I think the reason that I write stories and create worlds is that I lived in a neighborhood with no other children and had a lot of He-Man. So I had a stick stuck down the back of my shirt and was running around making up things to fight because there was no one to play with. So definitely that is at the root. And yeah, that do the right thing, but also whack it with a sword is something that Eric can appreciate in the same way that Adam, Prince of Eternia, can.
I love that. They're both kind of men of two worlds in a way. So issue 2 is coming out next month. Is that correct?
Yes, finally.
So you can go grab the first one if you haven't already. Get on board for what's going on with EXO right now. But while we're talking about some current books, I think we're going to slide on over to Rye and Bloodshot. So Lisa, we have these 2 books. They're very seemingly similar on the surface, action-packed. One side, we got Tim Seeley writing this big modern action story with Bloodshot. On the other hand, you got Dan Abnett tackling this sci-fi story in the far-flung future. What are these 2 writers bringing to the table for each of these books?
Oh, all right. Well, Tim Seeley brings exactly what we need for Bloodshot. He brings the action, the power, the nonstop adrenaline rush. I mean, from the moment page 1 starts, you are just on a train wreck. It's fun. It's fun. What's Bloodshot going to get involved with? What's he going to do? And there's such humor involved with it, and humanity, which you get to see Bloodshot win You know, he gets to save the day and be a hero, which is really nice and refreshing. So that's that. And Tim does a beautiful job at this. Dan Abnett, when I started, well, the very first day I started at Valiant, I was given Rye. And I said, what am I going to do with this book? I loved Rye. But I knew this was huge and it was going to be world building. And so I said, let me call Dan. And we got on the phone and we had a great conversation. And by the time I was off the phone with him, I said, I've got my writer. He knows exactly what I want. We were so in sync. And it's a different type of story because what we wanted was a story that could be almost a one and done. You know, you have a story that it's self-contained. It tells a kind of genre almost feeling of the story. And it could jump around because Fallen World, we've got so much to play with here. But it's epic. And there's a through line with this story. And at every issue, it builds and you learn a little bit more. And it's you know, it's a discovery of what these characters are and the humanity that they're attempting to find, and how they learn through each other. It's just that. I call it, you know, when my tagline for that when I first started this book was, I want to have the adventures of Samurai Jack and Astro Boy.
Oh, I love that. That's a great pitch right there. That's amazing. Seriously, while we're still on Rye is just filled with great surprises, let's be honest. Once you think you know where it's headed, then suddenly a bear man jumps out of a bushes. Can you tease us a little bit of what's in store for this book?
There's so much. I love Rye because at the end of every issue, my hair on my arm goes up and I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the next. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, for the Valiant fans, we're going to give you something that you're going to love. We get old characters coming back. We have huge discoveries. So you have to read it.
Okay. All right. I love it. I mean, like, seriously, like, if the passion and earlier mentioning of Samurai Jack doesn't get you in, I don't know what will. Like, seriously. What more do you need? Look, there's a lot of great stuff happening at Valiant right now. And we've already discussed a little bit of what's coming for the future. But why don't we talk a little bit more what's on the horizon for Valiant? So Heather, I want to talk a little bit about Shadow Man and what makes that character so interesting to you.
Oh my goodness, where to begin? He's, you know, hosts the Shadow Loa of the dead side. Like, you know, there's so much to love about Jack Boniface, about Shadow Man, and about this new iteration that is being created by Colin Bunn and John Davis Hunt. You know, when I came to Valiant 2 years ago, Shadow Man was the first book that I, like, you know, called dibs on, you know. I love the character, I love the premise, but more than anything else, I loved the idea of taking it from this modern vigilante story that had been happening and seeing what would happen with a more horror lens. And who better to do that than Cullen Bunn, right? And so what we're doing is something also that's a lot of fun in that the Dead Side isn't just in New Orleans. You know, that might be the capital, the Dead Side HQ, if you will, Voodoo HQ. But if the Dead Side can be accessed there, it can be accessed anywhere. And so the Dead Side is breaking through all over the world. And so we're getting to see Dead Side versions in Spain, in Arizona, in Japan, you know. And with that comes lots of different demons, lots of different Loa, lots of different problems for Jack Boniface to face.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Like, Cullen Bunn, I love his horror works. So, like, seriously, like, you probably could have stopped there for me personally. I was like, yeah, no, just let me have it. I'm in. But, like, I love that concept. I love the concept of taking the Dead Side globally. 2021 is looking great. Regardless of anything else happening for Valiant, it's looking amazing. But I would be remiss if I didn't also mention the fact that Valiant's first ever YA novel, Faith, Taking Flight, by New York Times bestselling author Julie Murphy, is out there, right? So you can grab that. And of course, if you haven't already, which I don't know how you haven't, if you haven't checked out the first ever Valiant movie, Bloodshot, starring Vin Diesel, is now available to rent or buy. So if you missed your chance, now is your chance to go check that out. Go hang out with Vin. Go hang out with Bloodshot. Go hang out with all of them. And if you want even more Valiant, well, there are new video games and collectibles on the way. So make sure you stay tuned because there's just more Valiant headed your way. 2021. It's going to be a great year for you guys, honestly.
We can't wait.
I want to say it's like a special thank you to all of you guys for being here. Our panelists were incredible. Thank you for sharing your time, your insights with me. I come out of this even more excited than I was going into it, and I didn't think that was possible. Thank you guys so much. And before we go, I want to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to let folk know where to find you. Where can they get in touch with some of their favorite Valiant members? Jackson, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm easily findable on Twitter at Jackson Lanzin. They've got me. I'm locked in. I also have an Instagram called Found in the Wild, but it's mostly just pictures of my cat. So like, if you're like really into my cat, follow me on Instagram. If you're really into comics, come follow me on Twitter.
It's a good cat.
And yeah, we'll talk about Valiant all day long.
I'm just going to follow you right now over there on Instagram.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Colin?
And I'm over at CP Kelly. Dang, whoever took Colin Kelly on Twitter. But yeah, CP Kelly. Give me a follow.
I'm on Twitter at Jeff Parker. Somehow I got my extremely common name.
Wow.
Got in early. My regular website is jeffparkerwrites.com. And that's the main places to find me.
Fantastic. Dennis?
You can find me at Hopeless Dent on Twitter because I'm an idiot. My name is impossible for anyone else to take, but I didn't use it. And then Dennis Hopeless Comics on Instagram.
Fantastic. Lisa?
I don't really have too much of a social presence out there. You can find me on Facebook or you can find me through Valiant.
There you go. And Heather?
I do have my name stolen everywhere. So you can find me at Heather Antos on Twitter and Instagram, where I mostly talk about penguins.
Okay. See, again, here we go. I'm in. You get me with the comics and you followed up with the 1-2 punch of the animals. I'm down. But guys, that's all the time we have for today. This was honestly such a pleasure. Like, what a fantastic day. And thank you for sharing everything that you shared with me. I hope you out there enjoy the rest of the metaverse. And of course, stay Valiant. Bye, guys.